Okay, welcome. And yes, that dramatic music was 100% intentional. I want to show you a simple 5-minute ritual that turns starting from a Herculean chore into something that feels suspiciously like cheating. Meet Alex, my unofficial research assistant, who has a PhD in procrastination and a minor in snack negotiation. He will demonstrate almost all the things we laugh about and I secretly judge with love. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through the tiny discipline habits that make starting feel effortless, and I promise to roast Alex just enough to keep him motivated. Let's be honest, starting is the real enemy, not the task. I've watched Alex stare at a blank document like it's an ancient cryptic rune, which is dramatic and slightly theatrical, but totally unnecessary. What I mean is, the brain treats beginnings like cliff edges, but tiny rituals turn that cliff into a gentle ramp. I'll explain how 5 minutes of intentional startup beats an hour of fretting. And yes, I will hold Alex accountable when he tries to argue otherwise. Tiny discipline sounds like something you'd use to train a very well-behaved hamster, but it's actually a powerful psychological hack. Alex will try to argue that his brain requires creative chaos and a ceremonial 2-hour procrastination per session before work. I've heard it, I've fact-checked it against a dozen snacks, and it's false. We'll use 5 focused minutes to build momentum, create curiosity, and trick your lizard brain into cooperation. Spoiler, Alex eventually learns it's less painful than his ritual of doom scrolling for research purposes. By the end of this video, you'll have a short ritual to escape avoidance, a cue to trigger action, and a plan to keep momentum rolling. I'll guide you step by step, and I'll narrate Alex's missteps so you don't have to become a cautionary tale. We'll also build a tiny, forgiving system that actually respects your energy, not bullies it, because kindness is a surprisingly effective productivity tool. And if Alex tries to rename this ritual as the magical instant fortune cookie, I will intervene. First step. Pick something so small you could do it in your sleep wearing oven mitts. I told Alex to write 1 sentence, and his first reaction was to debut a full sitcom pilot in his head, dramatic and adorable. The trick is specificity. 1 tiny, measurable action removes the mysterious fog of, I should do something, and replaces it with, I will do this tiny thing. Trust me, the satisfaction of marking something done is wildly underrated. Alex now brags about an inbox with 1 fewer email, like it's a heroic saga. Next, pair that tiny goal with a gentle cue, a visible timer, a specific place, or a 5-minute alarm that isn't trying to start a fire alarm party. I made Alex use a bright little timer, and he took it seriously until he tried to negotiate with the timer, which was a short conversation involving lots of sighing. The cue tells your brain, hey, we do this here, and that consistency slowly converts, starting from an event, into a habit. It's boring, but boring habits are secretly the reliable ones, like a dependable toaster. This is the golden permission slip. After 5 minutes, you are allowed and encouraged to stop. Radical, I know. I told Alex exactly this, and he treated it like a dare, sprinting through his 5 minutes as if he'd been challenged to a micro-Olympics. The point is to remove the mental pressure of, you must finish, so your brain stops treating starting as an all-or-nothing commitment. If you do want to keep going, by all means, roll with it. Celebrate the unexpected momentum like it's a surprise party. After the 5 minutes, name what you did. I made Alex wrote 1 sentence on a sticky note, and then he displayed it proudly on his fridge like it was a museum exhibit. This helps your brain register the action as a real accomplishment and builds the tiny habit ledger that fuels momentum. It's like giving your brain a tiny champion's trophy that says, yes, you did the thing. Alex now has a snack-fueled victory lap routine, and I am not stopping him. Finally, Repeat the cycle with gentle consistency instead of heroic fervor. I told Alex it's a marathon made of tiny sprints, and he misunderstood and tried to tie running shoes to his office chair. I gently explained metaphors. The goal is to create a forgiving loop. Tiny goal, visible cue, 5 minutes, name the win, and repeat. Over time, those tiny wins stack into real progress without draining your willpower. Your future self sends you a grateful postcard, probably written in a font called "I'm actually getting stuff done." Here's the brain part. Tiny wins release small doses of dopamine, which is basically a polite tap on the shoulder from your reward system saying, "Nice." I told Alex that winning small is like feeding a hamster tiny, nutritious pellets of confidence, and he nodded solemnly as though this was the most logical analogy. Those micro-dopamine hits make repetition feel naturally appealing, not like a lecture from your inner drill sergeant. So if you want momentum that lasts, build it with small, enjoyable successes rather than punishment. Avoidance is not laziness. It's an ancient brain doing a very modern job of protecting you from perceived threat. I explain it like a fire alarm that's a little too dramatic. It senses possibility, sounds bells, and you retreat to your couch. Alex tends to escalate tiny discomfort into full theatrical production, involving snacks and dramatic eye rolls. I document this with love. The 5-minute ritual bypasses that alarm long enough to show the brain there is no real threat, just a little progress waiting politely. Physicists call this activation energy, and I call it the thing that makes you do useful things instead of watching cat videos. The 5-minute rule lowers that activation energy by keeping the initial step so tiny your brain can't resist. I told Alex this, and he nodded like someone who understood chemistry perfectly and planned to do it later. He then tried to apply it to doing laundry, which is a separate episode. The point is, smaller steps make starting frictionless, and friction is the real productivity enemy. Compassion matters because shame is a terrible motivator. Think of it as emotional quicksand. I told Alex that berating himself after a procrastination binge is like trying to run in molasses. It makes everything worse. Instead, treat the start ritual as an act of curiosity and care, which actually increases the odds you'll do it again. Alex tried compassion and immediately asked if it came with cookies. I said yes, metaphorical cookies, but physical ones are negotiable. This tiny ritual sticks because it's built on cues, rewards, and low friction, the classic habit trifecta without the drama. I explained to Alex that habits aren't built in epics. They're the result of small, repeated decisions that eventually harden into grooves. He then tried to argue that his habits were all noble and complex, but I countered with, "Name one habit that didn't start tiny," and he conceded while sipping tea. That's the secret. Repetition plus simplicity equals staying power. Let's watch Alex do a real experiment. 5 minutes of email triage. He sits, breathes, sets the timer, and I half expect a ceremonial scroll of doom, and he does it, but with less drama than usual. The goal is not to clear the inbox, it's to dismantle the intimidation. Archive 3, reply to 1, and flag 1. When the 5 minutes are up, Alex stood and announced it as if he'd performed a magic trick. I applauded, honestly impressed by the theatricality of his small victory. Next, mid-afternoon slump, draft 1 paragraph for a report. Alex set his timer and opened the document like an explorer entering a cave full of sentences, dramatic but committed. He typed for 5 minutes, allowed himself to write poorly, and then named the win with a sticky note that read, "Paragraph, complete-ish." This tiny paragraph later became the foundation for a larger section, proving the law of small imperfect actions. Baby steps outpace paralysis. Before bed, we make a tiny plan for tomorrow. Pick 3 small tasks and pick a cue. Alex resists at first because he likes his bedtime freeform, which I respect, but I gently nudge him toward a short ritual that actually frees his evening. 5 focused minutes to plan reduces morning friction and prevents the classic, I don't know where to start, panic. Alex, predictably, immediately tried to over-engineer his plan with color-coded stars. I allowed 1 star and called it a win. Of course, there will be days Alex forgets, resists, or binge-watches tutorials on how to create elaborate lists instead of doing the work. On those days, the ritual doesn't fail, his consistency does, and that's fine. The reset is to be kind, re-establish the cue, and try again. I narrate Alex's slip-ups without shame, because the real skill is returning to the ritual with curiosity, and occasionally coaching him through strategic snack deployment. Finally, celebrate the progress without demanding perfection. A ritual that's kind but persistent beats perfectionism every time. I made Alex write a little progress note each week, and he turned it into a tiny scrapbook of wins, some small, some surprisingly big. This documentation does something clever. It shows you the compound effect of tiny actions and reduces the temptation to wait for the perfect day. I encourage you to keep a similar ledger. Alex insists on sparkly ink, which is optional but delightful. If you're too busy, congratulations, you are human and probably very popular with responsibilities. The 5-minute ritual is designed to fit even the busiest schedule because it doesn't ask for heroic time blocks, just a micro-commitment. I told Alex this, and he tried to book 5 minutes between an imaginary meeting and an imaginary snack break, which is ambitious but possible. Think of it as the tiniest habit that slides into cracks of your day, the secret filler that eats the procrastination monster. When the task is dreadful, 5 minutes turns tedious forever into just for a bit, which is psychologically easier to start. I challenged Alex to 5 minutes of tax prep, and he accepted with the bravery of a saint and the complaining of a toddler. Often, boring tasks become less painful once you're in motion, and sometimes you'll even find a rhythm or at least the luxury of finishing the worst part. If not, you've still traded dread for progress, and that's a win. If you're allergic to timers, I hear you. Digital TikTok trauma. Replace it with another cue, a sticky note, a playlist, or an object you place on your desk. Alex initially declared the timer tyrannical and demanded a gentler alternative. We compromised with a soft chime and a paper boat on the desk. The key is consistency of cue, not the tool itself, so pick something pleasant and dependable. If Alex insists, let the timer be a cute mascot rather than a drill sergeant. Momentum will ebb. Even rivers have slow days. When that happens, return to the ritual in its tiniest form, 1 minute or one tiny micro step. I once saw Alex do 1 sentence in 1 minute and then celebrate as if he'd climbed Everest. Optimism is infectious. The idea is to make the step so minuscule that your brain can't justify delay. Over time, those micro-returns rebuild momentum without forcing a dramatic all-or-nothing comeback. And sometimes, yes, the ritual doesn't stick, and that's okay. It's information, not failure. We troubleshoot. Change the cue, simplify the action, ask for external accountability, or check whether the task is actually aligned with your priorities. I once had to sit with Alex while he re-examined a project he'd been clinging to for ego reasons. Together, we decided to shelve it, and both of us felt lighter. The ritual is a tool, not a moral judgment. Use it compassionately and iterate. Let's recap before Alex insists on doing a commemorative dance. Pick one tiny specific action, pair it with a cue, set 5 minutes, name the win, and repeat kindly. I say it again because repetition is for brains, not just for videos. Alex appreciates the consistency. He also likes to repeat things dramatically, which is optional. These 5 steps reduce friction, increase traction, and keep shame out of the productivity equation. If you do nothing else, try this ritual tomorrow, and maybe don't let Alex choose the soundtrack. Here's a friendly 1-week experiment. Day 1, pick 5 minutes for email. Day 2, 5 minutes to draft. Day 3, 5 minutes to plan. Day 4, 5 minutes to tackle a boring task. Day 5, 5 minutes to review. And day 6, 7, rest and celebrate. I assigned this to Alex, and he treated it like a game show, inventing bonus rounds that involved celebratory snacks. The point is to test the ritual with low stakes, and notice how small, consistent actions shift your experience of starting. You don't need fancy tools. A cheap kitchen timer, sticky notes, a notebook, or your phone's alarm will do. Alex insisted on a color-coded system involving stars, stickers, and a tiny bell, which I allowed because it made him look like a productivity pirate and boosted his joy. Use what makes starting easier, not what makes you perform for future you. The ritual is portable and flexible. The point is consistency, not aesthetics, though I won't judge anyone for cute stationery. Over weeks and months, those tiny 5-minute rituals compound into real changes, more starts, more progress, and less dread. Alex now has a shelf of sticky notes with tiny wins, and he sometimes reads them like bedtime stories, which is both adorable and effective. The compound effect is boring but spectacular. Small daily actions add up, and before you know it, inertia becomes your friend. Celebrate that subtle magic, then maybe bribe Alex with cookies to keep him motivated. You don't need superhero willpower, you need tiny, kind systems and a willingness to try again. I've watched Alex fluctuate between brilliance, procrastination, and snacking, and what consistently helps is this small ritual and a pinch of patience. Start small, be kind to yourself, and celebrate tiny wins loudly if you like. Alex recommends celebratory jazz hands, but I recommend saving those for private moments. Go try 5 minutes now, I'll wait, and so will Alex, probably with a cookie. Here are fast, usable tips. Make your cue obvious, keep your goals tiny, allow stopping, record the win, and adjust gently. I told Alex to put his timer in obvious sight, and he stuck it on his forehead for a full minute. Inventive, but perhaps extreme. Keep the ritual pleasant so you'll actually do it. Punishments are for overdue library books, not your start routine. And remember, consistency, intensity, every single time. Alex had several outtakes, trying to do 5 minutes of yoga in an office chair, negotiating with a timer, and once attempting a celebratory dance that ended in a tangle of limbs and pride. I keep these anecdotes to remind you that the path is imperfect and often spectacularly human. If you can laugh at your attempts, you're already building resilience. Alex provides comic relief, and I provide the sarcastic commentary. Together, we make tiny discipline more entertaining than a motivational poster. FAQ time. No, 5 minutes is not a magic cure, but it's a powerful habit starter. Yes, you can repeat it, and no, you don't need to do this perfectly. People ask if they should increase time. Sure, once the habit is reliable, expand gently. Alex tried to double the time overnight and learned about slow progression the dramatic way. Keep expectations realistic and celebrate each tiny victory like it's a small but meaningful festival. Here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, do one 5-minute ritual every day and name the win. Make it silly, make it sacred, make it whatever gets you started. Alex chose a combination of both and named his sticky notes mini trophies. Share your wins with a friend or pin them on a visible board to build accountability. I'll be rooting for you, narrating Alex's misadventures in the background like a proud but slightly sarcastic coach. Okay, final note. Start small, be kind, and celebrate what you do, not what you didn't. Alex accepted the cookie, metaphorically and literally, and then did 5 minutes of something useful, which is the kind of circular victory I endorse. If you liked this ritual, try adapting it to your rhythms, and please, for the love of productivity, don't let Alex rename it the Eternal Morning Ceremony. Thanks for watching. Go do 5 minutes now, and if Alex sends you a selfie of his victory dance, know that I approved it with mild embarrassment and immense pride.